You're listening to Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization. This report was submitted by a woman named Terry. It's about her mother. She doesn't give a location or year on this, so we're just going to give the sighting report that she gave us. Her mother was a Cranberry ranch worker, and her and several people working this ranch were harassed by a Bigfoot. Terry writes RMSO. When my mother was a teenage girl, her family got jobs working on a cranberry ranch. They were there for about 2 months and stayed in cabins with other workers. Sightings of a Bigfoot were reported around the area. It was rumored that it killed a Native American woman years earlier. While there, my mother had her tonsils removed due to being very infected, and so she wasn't working. She went on many fishing trips to the nearby river. On one trip, she had a grizzly bear chase her. She narrowly escaped. But on another trip, she ran from something far more dangerous. She was fishing and keeping an eye for more bears so that she could run from them. And again, more bears showed up but paid no attention to her. Suddenly, they smelled something foul and ran past her in a panic. Then she heard an unearthly growl coming from the nearby woods. She left before it came into her view. During the day, she was the only person in the cabins while everybody else was at work. From time to time, she would hear someone drag chains and hit the cabins with it. She told everybody about the weird noise, but no one took it seriously. Her older sister, Betsy, just got a new little dog and tied it by their cabin. It didn't last a couple of days. Its remains were unrecognizable to them. It was beaten to a bloody pulp by those mysterious chains. No one heard the poor dog's little demise. A couple of nights later, my mother, some of her siblings, and a bunch of other teenagers left to the movies. On the way back, the truck that they were riding in broke down miles from home. By then, it was the middle of the night with the full moon. The gang of teenagers were almost home when they remembered that they were coming upon a field that had a very bad-tempered bull that was pinned in it. They silenced themselves and walked cautiously through the field. The kids were almost through until they came and heard the bull grunts and stops. Then they sighted the bull. He was in the midst of a fight that could not win. He was charging a giant hairy biped, and it caught him by the horns. The bull tried to toss it, but it was too powerful. It easily snapped the bull's neck and turned its attention toward the group of kids. My Uncle Frank, the oldest sibling, and some of the other boys got out their knives and formed a wall. He told the girls to run fast as they can to the camp, and the guys would walk backwards to hold off the giant. The camp was nearby, and its lights could be seen from the distance. The hairy giant began to follow them. Yelling and screaming, the kids woke up the locals. It stopped and walked back into the wilderness. More days passed without incident, until a night, the hairy giant decided to move on with its desire. It was dark and almost bedtime for the girls. Nearly all the men were congregating in one cabin, playing cards, drinking, and smoking. My mother, her sisters, grandmother, and great-grandmother were all in one cabin that night. Suddenly they heard noises around the cabin. Great-grandma and one of the older sisters were sitting by the fireplace. The youngest sisters ran and hid under their beds. My mother was standing in the middle of the cabin while her sister Betsy stood beside the door. She wanted to get even with that monster that killed her dog, so she had a wooden baseball bat in hand and was ready to unleash her fury. The 6-foot door shattered suddenly to reveal the attacker. All that was visible at first was the middle of the chest and downward. He slowly bent over to get in. His face was like that of a Native American. Betsy let loose her rage and hit him in the face until the bat broke with no effect. Then one of the older sisters and great-grandmother threw hot coals and burning wood on him. They lit his chest and family jewels on fire. He screamed so loud, people from miles away could hear him. The men in the nearby cabin heard him and quickly opened the door to find themselves trapped inside. The giant placed a large boulder to completely block the door. My grandfather and another relative was in a cabin next to my mother's cabin and saw the burning giant running from the cabin. He grabbed his six-shooter and shot him point-blank range with no effect. Incidentally, there was a group of men looking for the hairy giant. They were on the hunt for it because of all the dead livestock. The posse chased him through the night with their dogs. The dogs tracked him into the nearby mountains, but were all killed when they caught up to it. The men lost its trail without the help of their dogs. Mom and the rest of the family left the camp the very next day. Interesting Bigfoot tale. Would be really nice to know what state and location it happened in and the year it happened in. Just amazing. That's one of the most amazing Bigfoot stories that I've ever heard. Us at RMSO, we don't justify these stories that are reported to us, but we're going to go ahead and get those stories out there, and you can judge for yourself. Hopefully we can get more information on this story in the future. I hope you enjoyed. Keep on watching. We're going to keep on squatching.